Okay, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Preeti Shetty, the product owner for Project and Task Management application in Cloud ALM. And I would like to introduce today what's new in Project and Task Management, which is what we have delivered since the last year. Before I go there, I would like to know how many of you here are new to project and task management in Cloud ALM, who have never used, or, oh, very well. Then I have something for you too, because before we go see what's new in task management, we will see what are the basic features it offers. And then we go into how we have extended it in the last year. Okay, so what do we have on our agenda? So to give you an introduction to what project and task management has to offer in Cloud ALM, we will go through a step-by-step process on how you can set up your project, how you can bring in timelines, onboard resources, and then manage tasks and monitor them in your project. And then we move on to what's new that we have built. Project and task management in Cloud ALM. So before we get into the specifics of projects and tasks, we have to understand Cloud ALM not only offers this project management capability, but it offers end-to-end implementation of your solution through various features and functions. Starting with process management, you can manage your design and manage your processes within Cloud ALM. You can manage documentation, which is also a brand new feature. You will learn more about it in Senior's session, and how to maintain documentation. And people who are familiar with Solution Manager, it was called Solution Documentation. And then the focus of the session today is to see how project and task management helps in project execution in Cloud ALM. And what Cloud ALM also offers is for everything that you build and deploy using the capabilities that are available in Cloud ALM, you can also test them using the test management. Now we go into the core capabilities of what project management has to offer. So using the projects application in Cloud ALM, you can set up your projects. You can bring in tasks using the standard SAP Activate methodology, or you can bring in your own content for running an implementation or an upgrade project. You can model landscapes, which you can use to deploy the changes that you build within your project. And the deep dive sessions on change and deployment management will show you also how to deploy the features that you have built along the landscape that you assign to a project in the later sessions during this week. You can manage requirements in projects, the ones that you capture in the Fit to Standard workshops. Now what we have also offered is the LeanIX integration that is already up and running. So you can bring in the fact sheets from the initiatives that are defined in LeanIX and link them to either an already existing Cloud ALM project, or you can create a brand new project from the initiatives, so fact sheets within the initiatives that are available in LeanIX. The brand new feature, you probably have heard about it a few times now, quality gates. It's not only applicable for RISE, it's a generic project item. You can create your own quality gates and bring in your own checklists to manage your quality gate assessment process along the different phases of your project. Lastly, The open APIs help you bring in content from external applications into the project and manage the communication back and forth between the Cloud ALM and the external application that you connect. And lastly, to bring all this information together, we have various reports that are available in the analytics application, which you can use to monitor and track the progress of your project. You can identify workload distribution, any bottlenecks, and take appropriate decisions based on the insights you get from these analytical reports. All right, now let's jump into how we get started with a project in Cloud ALM. So the very first step that you will have to start with when you want to start a project is to create a project. Creating a project is one of the very simple things in Cloud ALM, so that's what we are going to see here now. You start with the creation of a project, and based on what your requirement is, who should be able to access the information that is provided in this project is controlled by the access level. And once you have the project in place, you want to bring in the objectives and the scope that is defined in the project. So you set up scope using the best practice content that is readily available. You can pick the solution scenario that you are focusing on in this project. And now you see this brings you all the processes that are part of the solution scenario, and then you can start with the initial scoping of your project, where you choose what process is in scope. And this is an activity that you do during your Fit to Standard workshop, so you identify the process, and then you sit with your process experts and identify what is it that you need to modify in this process, what needs to be enhanced. You discuss with the experts, and then you start capturing the requirements for this process. So this, what you see, is the access to the best practice content that you get. So this is readily available. And from here, you can extend the standard processes that are available. And you also see here the option to create requirements directly at the solution activity level. And the requirements that you create here can then be later planned in your project. Now, the next step in the project is to utilize the standard methodology content available or readily made available by SAP Activate. SAP Activate provides you a structured content to implement or upgrade almost all of the SAP solutions that are offered by SAP. So one of the very often used features by our customers and partners is to leverage this Activate methodology in their project. So, and how it's done? Simply by assigning an Activate roadmap to your project, you can bring in all the content that is provided in that methodology within that roadmap as deliverables and tasks within your project. And they also come preloaded with accelerators that you can readily use. So most of the tasks tell you what is it that you're supposed to do, and also give you additional documentation on how to do those tasks. And you can also identify these tasks with a special type called roadmap tasks. For the ones who have already used, you know there are certain things you cannot change in a roadmap task, but we have enabled we have allowed the modification of certain attributes like tags, work streams, and deliverables can now be changed for roadmap tasks. And these roadmap tasks are also grouped by deliverables, which also help you in managing these tasks better, because the deliverable is a an entity which tells you if there are a group of tasks associated with it, how far have you gotten with the task to achieve that deliverable. And what we have also delivered, or a change from the last year's ALM Summit, probably you didn't see it then, is we have also enabled the navigation from the deliverable screen here, and then you can go into the filtered list of all project entities, not only tasks. If you have requirements assigned or user stories, you can also get those by directly navigating from the deliverables. Once you have the methodology assigned, the next step is to define the timelines of the project, assign resources. You have to onboard resources based on who needs to do which tasks, and then start managing the tasks. So let's take a look at how you start with planning and timelines. So there is something called as time boxes, and here you see all the phases. These are the standard phases delivered by Activate methodology, and they are available by default. But you always have the choice based on your own project requirements. You can activate or deactivate the phase that you want. And then you can assign the timelines. And if you are following an agile build approach, you can also create sprints, which can be used to distribute tasks. And lastly, the critical events in a project are identified by milestones, and there are certain default milestones that are made available with every project that you create. Though it is optional, it is recommended to use these milestones because they help you in identifying if there are any risks in achieving a certain milestone in your project. Now, once you have the time schedule defined, the next step is to onboard your project team. So based on your project requirements, let's assume you have identified the resource who needs to be onboarded into your project and the roles. You can start setting them up here under the roles section. Now, all the set of roles that you see without that little tiny icon next to the role, this is what identifies that it is a custom role. Everything else is a standard role that is coming from, again, the Activate methodology. So this is available by default. And if you identify that there is a role that's not available, which you want in your project, you can create it. And once the roles are available, you onboard your project team. So then you start assigning the resources to the appropriate roles in your project, and then once you have done this, you will be able to assign those resources to the tasks later. And these roles and the assignment of a user to the role also helps later in tracking the tasks that you're assigned to, because there are options in quite a few analytical reports where you can say, okay, show me the tasks that are assigned to me or the ones that are assigned to my role, because then I can decide if I have the capacity, then I can take over certain tasks because that is relevant for the role that I'm playing in the project. That is how you can make use of this role assignment to the resources feature. Now, once this step is complete, where we have set up the roles and the project team, the next activity is to start organizing the tasks. Because you might have already seen the moment you use an Activate roadmap, you get hundreds of tasks in your project. And We hear it very often that it's a very challenging task for you to manage all these tasks that are coming out of the Activate roadmap. So the best way to manage these tasks, or at least a more efficient way, is to start grouping these tasks into logical units. And one of the standard features that is available is using the work streams. So these are like the functional units that you can leverage already. By default, there are some available, but you can also create some based on your own requirement of the project and start grouping the tasks by using these work streams. And this is where you see in a task, you see there are already, if I have used an Activate roadmap, they come pre-assigned, all the tasks come pre-assigned to a work stream and a deliverable, and you can identify them here in the additional information. The same you can do for all the manually created tasks. The tasks that you create on your own, you can also assign these standard work streams, or you can create your own if you identify that you need additional work streams to segregate tasks in your project. And for example, here in our project, we have identified there is no quality assurance team, and then we want one to separate the tasks that are belonging to quality assurance. Then we create one and assign this to the tasks. And this also later helps in identifying the task distribution. So based on work streams, you can identify, okay, so how is the task distribution looking like? Is there any bottleneck? Do I have to onboard more team members with the competency I need to fulfill those tasks, and so on? This is about using the work stream. So another way of segregating the tasks is using deliverables. So there we are. And as we saw already from the roadmap, we get the tasks grouped under deliverables, which means when I complete this set of tasks, I would get this output out of the task. So that is what a deliverable is. So for example, I have to complete a design document. Then I have probably 5 tasks that I need to complete to have the design document ready. And all those tasks can be assigned to a deliverable design document for requirement A. Yeah, and once you have these deliverables in place, you can also now create custom deliverables apart from the standard deliverables you have. It was already possible last year. We showed that you could create your own deliverables and assign tasks to these deliverables. And they also help in tracking the progress of the different tasks which lead to a deliverable that you will see in the analytical reports. So if there are any bottlenecks in the delivery of a deliverable, you can identify them by simply looking at the task distribution based on deliverable. Lastly, tags. It is one of the most frequently used feature, also to enable you, to help you group the tasks based on certain attributes that are not already available as part of the standard. So you see there are certain additional attributes that you see as part of the task. Those are default attributes, but on top of that, if you want to assign certain specific criteria to a set of tasks, for example, you want to identify risks in a project, which is right now not possible. We are working on it. our way or the workaround is you can create those tasks and create the tag risks, and you can use the analytical reports that are available to track those tasks based on tags. Or you want to group RISEF-related tasks. So you could use tags of your own. You can use even tag groups to even broaden the grouping of tasks in certain cases. And again, you have the standard set of tags that are available and that are coming from Activate, and you also have the possibility to create your own tags and tag groups to manage the tasks within your project. Probably I already mentioned another feature that we have enabled is the ability to change the tag assignments to roadmaps. So what we allow is the roadmap tasks can be assigned your custom tags that you have created in your project, and any content update that happens will not change the modifications that you have made anymore. And it is the same for the workstream assignment as well as the deliverable assignment. So you can be safe if you change these attributes of the roadmap tasks, that the content update is not changing the recent changes that you have made. And this here shows how the tag-based tracking can look like, and this is also another way of grouping and effectively managing tasks in the project management application. Now, the next step in the project setup is, once you have defined work streams, once you have your own set of deliverables, and define the tags that you want to use in your project, the next one is to bring in the system aspect of what is going to be impacted within that project. And that is done using the deployment plan. And this is, and releases. And this is also something that plays a very important role once you start using the change and deployment management capabilities using features. So you start with creating a deployment plan, so which is kind of a blueprint of systems that are involved or going to be touched as part of this project. And you can make use of releases to actually manage how the change across the landscape looks like, and at what point in time what changes are going into which systems. And when there are multiple teams that are involved and cross projects that are involved, because deployment plan is a cross project entity, you can keep everyone informed who is using the same landscape. Yeah? So first you start with creating the deployment plan, and then you bring in the system group, where actually the systems are assigned to the different roles, and the system group is then assigned to the deployment plan that is associated with the project. And this is where the deployment plan gets assigned. So once you assign the deployment plan to your project, you can see the deployment plan and all the systems that are coming in from the system group that is assigned. And a new feature that we have delivered is to actually also show in case if there are any solution components that you have assigned in your scoping and you do not have a relevant system group assigned, it gives you also the suggestion that you could add this system group or the deployment or bring in the system group into your deployment landscape. Now, once you have the releases assigned, it is also then possible to use this release your releases in your requirements, because requirement planning can also be done cross-team, and assigning a release also helps in knowing what kind of requirements are coming in when, so business as well as the IT teams are can prepare themselves for the changes that coming in with every release. Now, I'm just looking at the time, so we have some more minutes. Lastly, the quality gate feature that we delivered in the beginning of this year is the possibility to create quality gates in your project. So some of you might have heard that when you use the RISE roadmaps, you get these clean core quality gates automatically, and that's an automation that we have specifically delivered for RISE. If you use any other roadmap or you create your own project, you also have the possibility to create these quality gates manually and use the upload function to bring in your own questionnaire. Yeah. So in this case, if you bring in your own content, then of course you bring in both you have to create the quality gate and the checklist. For other roadmaps that you use, there are accelerators that are available in the form of an Excel. We are working together with the Activate colleagues to also automate this process for other roadmaps as well. But as we all know, it takes time. But in the meantime, you still have the possibility to create a quality gate and upload them and run your quality gate review process. So once you have uploaded the quality gate checklist, your quality gate is available. And once you reach the end of a specific phase, you can run the review process together with all the stakeholders, and you see you can set the status at each checklist level, and finally at the quality gate level you say either your quality gate is accepted or not, which determines whether you can move on to the next phase or not. Another feature that is available here is you also can create directly a follow-up task. So if there are action items coming out of the review of your quality gate process, you can directly create follow-up tasks from the quality gate, and then you can track them also in the relations of quality gate. And yes, of course, in the information of the project, you always see for that current phase if there is a quality gate assigned, and what is the status of that quality gate. And there is this tiny report which shows the information about the upcoming quality gate in the project overview, and this was the initial card that we delivered, but now we have a full-blown report, a dedicated report that shows you the status of all quality gates in your project. Okay, now we move on. To how we can track and monitor projects. Once you have set up your project, you have all the resources onboarded and the timeline set up. You use Gantt view for your regular monitoring of tasks over the timeline, and then you have the Kanban card during your sprints you can use to move around your tasks and change the status automatically. What we have enhanced is you can now also create tasks from here, and you can also have this view now for requirements and defects. Then there is our very popular project overview, where you can see multiple cards. You can personalize these cards, which gives you an overview of everything that's going on in the project, and multiple analytical reports that gives you information about project progress, solution, you can track your solution scenarios, you can track your requirements, quality gate reports, and there are tons of it. And there is a dedicated session by Megha who will show you all the different reporting capabilities that is offered here. In the interest of time, now I'm going to be very fast. I'll take 2 minutes to introduce new features in project and task management. So, there was a session before this, Rise with SAP methodology. Whatever new features we built and delivered to support the execution of methodology was shown there. And also, some of you might have seen it in the keynotes. What is it that we offer to support you in the execution of the Rise methodology? Now, what we also offer is the possibility to use more than one roadmap if you want. So, however, this is a first version of this feature. When you have multiple solutions involved and you want to combine the roadmaps, it's possible now. There are limited roadmaps, but this will grow in time. Now, there is a workflow assignment possible now, the external workflow. We have Xavier here, who is the expert and who is also responsible for building this integration. So now you can have the workflow integration of requirements. The requirement that you create in Cloud ALM can go through an approval workflow in an external system, and then you can assign this subscription via external API, and you see in the history of the requirement when you trigger the approval of the requirement and when you get the status update back. So this is something that you can track in the history, and you will also see once you have this integration available, you will not be able to change the status of the approval state of the requirement anymore in Cloud ALM, because from then on all approvals go through the external approval engine. Yeah. LeanIX integration, as I already mentioned, you can link the fact sheets from LeanIX into Cloud ALM, and you can also sync the dates and the phases. And lastly, many enhancements that we have delivered. You can use the enterprise search to search through tasks and task description. You can assign deliverables to now user stories and requirements. This was one of the requests from customer influence. You can adjust workstream and deliverables in roadmap tasks. You can create tasks in the card view. We have introduced discover phase. You might have observed it when in the time boxes. This was not available before, but now even the pre-sales activities that has happened before your project starts can also be brought into the project when you start with the project. Lastly, responsible in Gantt chart, most requested feature. We now have it in the Gantt chart. You can see the responsibles. Outlook. We are going to work on a constraint-driven requirements management, because right now you can do everything with requirements, right? So the first step towards bringing in more compliance was to provide the integration with the workflow engine via the external workflow. And the second, step number 2, is to define these constraints also in the project. Who can set these constraints is also depending on the authorizations that the personas have, and then the follow-up that is getting created from requirements are controlled more strictly than it is now. You will hear more about it in Lisa's session, which is on Friday. So all the different types of constraints that we have planned to bring in, the details of this can be heard from her. We want to focus on risks and issue management in project, where you can document project risks and define mitigation plan. We want to also offer modular roadmaps, like a subset of roadmaps that you can use in your projects. And lastly, you will see more and more integration with SAP delivered service outcomes and the integration of the Cloud ALM for service applications with projects. Now with this, I'm finished, and we still have 10 minutes for question and answers.
Thanks. Just one question. The session was about project management, but what's about product management with agile teams, backlogs, and so on?
Sorry?
So if I have, instead of projects, if I have products that are running agile with backlogs, so not milestones and all these things, is there also support in Cloud ALM to work with agile teams?
If you run that as a project, yes. You manage your product management as a project, then you can.
Yeah, I don't want milestones, but really backlogs. So
but you don't have to use milestones. Like I said, it's optional, right? So you also can pick to ignore the milestones if that suits your, if you want to manage your products via the project management, then it's also possible. You don't even need sprints then if you don't use the agile methodology.
Okay, thanks.
I know that there's a possibility in the additional part to mention how many hours are planned for a task or anything like this, but do you plan to have a real-time tracking in project management?
No, that is not on our roadmap, and that's also not an area that we want to focus on unless we get more votes on from the community here asking, okay, that's absolutely something that we need. But time tracking is not what we have on our roadmap.
That's a pity.
I know. It doesn't work. Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, so in test with Focus Build, we use project management with master project and build projects. We could report on the streams by build project. We had test management related reporting against the build project. We have bigger projects, different S4 streams with external streams, with cross streams.
How would we do this in Cloud ALM? We have work streams, yes, but how can we then define and report on test activities per work stream? Is the idea to have one project for a big scale implementation project, or you rather recommend to have single projects for all the single individual sub-projects? But then if that is the solution, how is the overall program reporting and analytics made?
Very good point, because we have recently brought in the cross-project analytics, where you are able to track requirements, user stories, tests, and so on across tasks. But that's, again, the most basic version that you have. And we have also quite a few improvements that are coming in that area, and that's definitely going to support if you are managing the activities by using multiple projects, then it's using cross-project analysis. But we also have customers who have gone for the approach of using a single big project. In their case, it made sense because they also want to be able to reuse elements that they build, and that was the only way, that is the only way right now to have this one big project. However, you might have seen in Michael's presentation yesterday a concept of once we have the productive solution up and running, to move it to a more productive version. It's still a concept that's in place, and that would be one of the points where you can track what is productive and cross-project. It is beyond project.
So we tried this as well, but then we have the limitation, for example, teams are not reusable. So we even tried to think about, okay, we have to build an organizational template project to then reuse these entities, copy them to other projects, but it is not possible because they need to have a unique name. So we are really struggling in making a larger scale transformation projects still possible with that.
Yes, we have received this feedback from also multiple users, and that's also like how can we make the teams usage, like assignment of teams, more usable in terms of cross-project. That's what we have on our plate, but we don't promise a timeline. So, but we still take it as a feedback, and we will look into it and come back to you in time with a better concept. Yeah. Yes.
Good morning. I was a bit surprised to see release management shown on the screen. I had not seen it in Cloud ALM before. The question would be, how strict is the connection between project management and release management? Can I have project management without release management, or do we have to stick to some waves and releases?
To answer your first question, can you have one without the other? It's possible. If you only want to use change and deployment management, it is possible, but it's also possible. But the best way to do it is via the projects. And what was the second question?
It's if we can be, it can be used independently, because my experience from focused run is that this was very strict, and all projects had to follow a strict wave and release framework or strategy. And yeah, I had not seen this in Cloud ALM before, so the question is, how strict is it? Can we just use it independently, or some projects will follow release management, some projects will follow ad hoc and their own deployment timelines, etc. Yeah,
it's not as strict as it was defined in Focus Build. So, but also it's not, it is not offering you everything that Focus Build offered. But there are certain types of objects that you can deploy, ABAP, BTP extensions, and so on. And what is planned more, you can hear from our expert Moritz in his dedicated session for change and deployment management.
Thank you.
And what's coming.
One last question?
Yeah.
One more. Time.
Oh, yeah. One last question. I have two. Okay. Two questions? Okay.
For sure.
Hi, good morning. Collaboration is such an important topic in task management. Today we do have in-apps notifications. Will it be possible to trigger a notification just by referring to a user, for example, in the comments, and make this very dynamic?
Very good point. There is an influence request. I would encourage you to vote. Have you voted it? Voted for it? Yes, we are looking into it. We know that this is missing, and we also want to enable this. And this is actually even on our higher priority.
Thank you.
Yeah, this will come.
Thank you.
I have the same question.
Ah, perfect. Then we are finished. All right, then thank you very much, everyone, for a very engaging session. And there is a slide in the presentation. I think this is my version. You can rate the session, and if you want to spread the news about ALM Summit, then please use hashtag ALM Summit and share your thoughts. Thank you very much.